So I'd like to begin with kind of a confession here that throughout my career, my number one strategy for completing my to-do list is just to stay until it's completed. Doesn't matter how late, doesn't matter if I'm doing it on the weekends, early mornings, staying in far in excess of the 40 hours was my standard. So when I first met Rudi, I was totally baffled. She left at 4:30 every day. She did not answer email from home. And yet every grant application and report was submitted on time. So let's bring Rudi to the podcast, if she's not there already. Bring Rudi to the podcast. And I'd like to ask her, Rudi, how did you do it? How did you leave every day at 4:30? And I'd like to start with your strategies for communication.
Hello, Estelle. It's a pleasure to be here. And one of the strategies I have developed is to let everybody know what I'm working on. And so all the team members, they tell their colleagues, and everybody is working on towards the same deadline. And when other colleagues know that, they tend to give us space. And sometimes I put up a sign on my door, I won't be available, please come back, or go see so-and-so. Or one time I even put up a police tape across the corridor so that other people, and they respected that. They saw that, and they gave us space. I do socialize. I like to socialize, so I would have lunchtime with my colleagues, but then it would be back to the job. And everybody, when they were aware of what we were doing, they really, to the extent possible, tried to give us space with no interruptions. And it's true. I would leave at 4:30. I would be physically gone, but still in my head, I would be reflecting on the day and then preparing for the day ahead, because my strengths for writing are in the morning. And so I knew not to even try anything in the afternoon or evening.
Wow, great suggestions. And thank you so much for that. I was just thinking about with COVID-19 and working remotely, which is what I've been doing now, I've been able to do for my job is to be able to work remotely with so much going on. And then we're trying to balance still the work-life balance, and then in the midst of a pandemic. So your suggestions are really helpful. And then I'm thinking about when you're doing things home, about the calendar and how to manage all that when you're working from home. And you have some strategies on using your calendar, because when you're working from home, it almost seemed like to me, I'm doing more at home, even though it's working remotely. It's like I'm trying to juggle more and do things. So what are your strategies when it comes to a calendar and managing that? Can you talk a little bit about that?
When I would be finished my main work of the day, I would make myself a little priority list for the next day. And I always would leave that on my computer when I walked out of my office, and I knew that was going to be there the next day. And what I did was I listed the items that I could get accomplished in a day, and give them start times and end times, and put them right into a schedule, and give myself time in between for the interruptions or an unexpected email where I would need to gather some information in order to keep going forward. So having that little list was, it gave me peace of mind too. So when I went home, I knew that I was all ready for the next day. And when I would come in, that list would be there and I'd be ready to tackle it.
That's a great idea. I like that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's really helpful, because right now, working from home, like I said, remotely, I do have whiteboards where I can put things up, and that's something is universal. What you said about putting things up, you can do that from home. You could do that in your office. You know, you can still do that list, and so that's something you could do anywhere. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's terrific, Rudi. I mean, it's so simple. But I know that I always like larded up my day and packed things one after the other and never left time in between. And that results in you being so much more productive to have a more manageable to-do list and time for follow-through or unexpected things. So thanks for that tip. So I want to share with our viewers, and you'll have to describe it to the people listening to the podcast, for really my favorite strategy that you had for organizing. And I have since borrowed that, but you had this use for scratch paper that created kind of micro files within files. So if you can share that trick and then any other tricks for organizing, which is always a good thing for time management.
It's really easy when you're working on a multifaceted project to end up with multiple folders because of the different topics. And what I try to do is consolidate the topics that are similar, and I just take a piece of scratch paper and I fold it in half and I give it a subtopic, and then I tuck it into the main folder. And so it gives me 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 subtopics within that folder, but the relevant papers are already organized so that I don't have to go rifling through that whole folder. I've already got them divided by the subtopic, and that makes it much easier for me to find what I want and then to continue back to the computer to work on the next phase.
Yeah, I like that. I never thought about that with the subtopics. Yeah, that is a great idea. Thank you. And I got plenty of file folders and in my office and everything else. So I'm definitely going to use that strategy. And it's just so interesting when you talk about these strategies. And you know, this is not my first job. So I'm like, why didn't I think about these things in my career all these years? So it's never too late to learn, lifelong learning.